Lives can be cut short. Lives don't live forever. Lives will die. The island of Sodor is a place where steam locomotives and diesel engines can live forever and lead happy lives. Some of its engines, however, have suffered terrible fates, while others were simply sold away. Others have never left, all because of tragic accidents. I am one of those engines, and this is my story. I was built at Barrow and Furnace in 1916 to help with the war effort. I was built solely to work on Sodor. I was the second engine built at Barrow Furnace for this kind of job. An engine had been killed recently. I didn't know the specifics of his or her death. All that I know was a very tragic one. But just like that engine, I was a hybrid. I was built similar to the L&ER Robinson D11 class locomotives. However, I was built with only 3 driving wheels on each side, so I had an 060 wheel arrangement instead of a 460 wheel arrangement. I didn't have a name, so I only went by my number, 340. After winning on the test trials, I was fully commissioned and sent to Sodor, where I would help out with the war effort. There, I met what would become 2 of the most famous engines on Sodor at that time, Thomas the Tank Engine and Edward. Edward was a very kind, helpful engine, and I always looked up to him. Thomas was 3 years older than me, and he was a bit cheeky at times, but we got along extremely well. Soon, I set to work hauling my trains. At this point, I was the biggest engine on the railway, other than a red engine simply called Eagle. I remember other engines there too, Colin and several others as well. However, some things didn't go quite according to plan. It had been only 3 days since I arrived on the railway. I was hauling a goods train, as passenger trains weren't regular at that time, because of the railway's construction. However, when I went over a curb, I unexpectedly derailed. Luckily, I wasn't going that fast, so I only derailed a few meters off the tracks. But it was so unexpected. I was traveling at the normal speed, which was at 15 miles an hour, and then I derailed up the line. Thomas came with the breakdown train. He asked me what had happened. I said I didn't know. I shrugged it off, and then I was put back on the line. That's when troubles began. A few days later, I was puffing down a line pulling a small passenger train. It was bound for Marin, which was not very far down the line. As I puffed down the line, I then realized I began to wobble from side to side. Then, just as what had happened a few days earlier, I came off the rails yet again. This time, I nearly tipped over. I got grass and dirt in my cylinders. At this point, Sir Tom Hat was wondering what the heck was wrong with me. So I was put back on the line. But then, a week later, I did the same thing. I went off the line. This happened week after week. And then it happened 2 months into my career on Sodor. I was pushing a train of rails down to the Marin where we extended, when all of a sudden, I came off the tracks yet again. This time, I went down an embankment and into a swamp.
This was my first major accident, and I was taken off the line and was put into a workshop to be fixed. That's when I realized why I was suffering so many accidents. The fact was that I had a major design flaw.
It turned out that my design was not a perfect one. Due to me only having 6 driving wheels and no trailing or front truck wheels, I was frequently expected to nosedive and was improperly balanced, which made me be a rough rider, causing my accidents. The builders at the time didn't even care about me, which was shocking. What they did was most horrifying. What they did was they had built me and sold me the Sodor before even giving me proper trials. They only tested me at shunting and at slow speed, not at high speed, where my imbalance would take over. I was most horrified. Here I was, an experimental engine, all of a sudden a design flaw, and I would frequently become imbalanced. This would drastically increase my dangerousness. It took me several months for me to be repaired and to be looked at. Then I was put back on the line, but with a new tactic. The Fat Controller told me that I was not allowed to go beyond 25 miles an hour, which was the most safest speed possible at the time. I was very concerned, judging that this would drastically disprove my worthiness as a really useful engine, which was all I wanted to be, but I couldn't because of my stupid design flaw. Still, I went back on the line, and a few weeks went by. Everything went fine. I pulled my trains right up the time. However, things went back to the original ways. It was February of 1917. I, once again, was pulling a passenger train, when all of a sudden, I felt my wheels wobble underneath me. And then, as I rounded a curb, I flew off the rails into a field.
"12 passengers, all in the first 2 coaches, were killed in the crash. I was horrified. I had just caused 12 innocent human lives to die in a tragic train accident. My crew was severely injured, and many other passengers were also injured as well. This time, I was severely damaged, which took me off the line for a couple of months. At this time, we got 2 new engines that were very horrid. 87546 and 98462. Those 2 were such horrid engines. They treated me like a piece of junk after I returned from the works. They said that I was an improper engine and to be scrapped immediately. I was only 1 year old at the time of this, and I was shocked. Thomas, Edward, Eagle, Cullen, and several other engines comforted me, but still, I was no match for the ultimate size of 98462 and 87546. Months and months went by, and my accidents continued to happen, all because of my design flaw. I began to suffer from wooziness and illnesses due to being so imbalanced all the time on the tracks. So Tom Howe was running out of options of what to do with me. I was praying that he would not send me away to the scrapyard. To think of it, it's ultimate horrifying. Then, in 1918, we got a new engine, an engine that has similar mechanical functions as me. However, he was a more design flaw on the internal, while my design was external. His name, as you may know, was Henry. Henry was a very kind engine, and I became best friends with him. He treated me like his older brother, and I tried to show him the ropes of how to be a really useful engine. Though, he also questioned why I was failing all the time. And then I told him that it was because of my wheel arrangement. He was shocked, but still, he liked me. And he even called me his older brother. I was shocked. I mean, he was very different compared to me in design-wise, but still, he treated me like a brother. To this day, I still think of him. Due to my frequent accidents, some had took me off the main line to work on a branch line. It was the Marin to Crunk branch line, which ran from Marin all the way to Crunk. It was a nice little line, but still, this couldn't stop me from crashing all the time. By the end of 1919, I had killed over 56 people in either in accidents or simply running them over. My crew still believed in me. To this day, they still did. Even after my accidents, they still cared for me and worked with me all my life. Sadly, my life wouldn't last much longer. 1920 came around, and I would be gone. 1920 came around, and us engines found ourselves in a bit of a predicament. We were suffering from an engine shortage, as the railway had become increasingly popular. So, we had 4 060 tank engines join us on the railway. I remember them very well, those 4 little 060 tank engines. Their names were Ian, Nate, Jack, and Jordan. They were really useful engines, and I enjoyed their company, and they enjoyed me too, despite my mechanical difficulties. However, due to my frequent accidents, I was put solely on goods work. Then came May 1st, 1920. It was a very cold, foggy day. I had just arrived at Wellsworth while carrying a goods train. Luckily, nothing happened on this trip. However, as I waited at Wellsworth sheds, Sir Tom Hack came to see me, or the first Bat Controller. He had a very sad look on his face. He told me this: 340, I'm sorry. Many of the passengers don't believe they can trust in you to work here. With this, you are not allowed to pull any more passenger trains. Furthermore, many of our goods services don't believe that you are capable of hauling their freight. I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to use you less and less, he said. He then said this: if it comes any worse, we will have to sold you to another railway. But I said, but sir, nobody will want me on their railway. I cause the same problems. I then began to think. I was being used less and less, all because of the stupid war. The war had caused me these problems. I had pulled many trains, and I was surprised, and no wonder they didn't even have me pull ammunition trains. I was too dangerous. What if 98462 and 87546 were right? I didn't know what to think. No one would ever want me, and I told him this. Sir Tom only responded, I'm sorry, 340, but we won't able to hold you much longer at this state. Unless there could be something to be done about you, we won't be able to save you. And he walked away. I looked silently at him as he walked away and began to cry. All because the people had rushed my construction and didn't build me the way that I was supposed to be built. My stupid flawed design. It was my designer's fault. He was the one who caused my ultimate fate that would happen later that same night. For the rest of the day, I didn't talk to anyone. Edward wanted to talk to me, but I didn't even listen to him. I knew my end was coming. I wasn't able to be on Soda much longer. Edward refused this, saying that we will do everything possible to save you, 340. I didn't trust him. I didn't believe in him. No. For the rest of the day, I didn't know what to think. What would happen to me? Would I finally get a life I deserved? Or would I be scrapped? Dusk fell. I was in my shed. One other angel was there with me. 98462. And he said something to me that I would never forget. He said this. "Huh, you think you can belong on this railway? You're nothing but a heap of scrap metal. You know what you are? You're a scoundrel mongrel. That's what you are. You don't belong on this railway." I retorted, but he shut me up by saying, "You won't last another day." And soon enough, he would be right. He soon left to take a night freight train. I didn't know what to think. I was angry, but I was also extremely sad. What would happen to me? Then, some hack came to see me. He looked at me and said, "340, I know you can't pull passenger trains, but please, can you pull this one? The passengers need to get home by 9 o'clock. If not, they'll be stranded, as no other engines are available. Can you do it?" I thought about this, and I made a decision. "Of course, sir," I said. "I will pull the train." I had decided that whatever the cost, I would get those passengers home, even if it killed me. It did, but not the way you would expect. Nighttime came, and I was waiting at Knapford with the final train of the night. The passengers didn't knew I was pulling the train, but they all wanted to get home, and so did I. All the same, I was wondering what would happen to me after this run. Soon, all the passengers climbed aboard the 3 coaches. The guard blew his whistle. "All right, 340, away we go," cried my driver. "Absolutely," I replied. And I puffed away into the night. I was soon roaring down the line at a great pace. Surprisingly, I wasn't wobbling as much. This was because my driver had done some tightening on my screws, and now I was running perfectly. All the same, I was still wondering what would happen to me. I was so much deep in thought that I didn't know what was about to happen next. Little did I know, Jordan and Ian were double-heading a train of coal trucks in front of my train. The trucks had broken away, however, and they raced down the line at a dangerously reckless speed. They stopped on the viaduct, on the same line I was on. As I raced down the line, my driver realized I was starting to go a bit faster, and I was starting to rough Riley a little bit, so he decided to watch my speed. "Oi, 340, slow down a little bit, man. You're running a bit too roughly." I didn't listen. I was too much in thought of what would happen to me after I did this train. Would I be scrapped? Would I be sold? And I began to go faster, not watching my speed. At this point, my driver saw a red signal before we approached the viaduct. This was obviously because of the trucks that were on the line that broke away from Ian and Jordan's train. "Oi, 340, You have to stop. I didn't listen to my driver, however, because I was too much in thought. I began to go faster and faster down the line. My crew were quite surprised. Oi, B40, what are you doing? Stop! Stop! I was so distracted that I still didn't hear them. I was racing down the line towards disaster. Then, my driver spoke again. B40, please stop! There's trucks on the viaduct! Sure enough, I snapped out of my trance, and I looked straight ahead. There were the trucks on the viaduct right in front of me. I didn't know what to do. I slammed on my brakes. The trucks kept coming closer and closer. There was no way I could stop in time. I let out one final scream. I was killed instantly, along with all the passengers on board. 34 in total. My crew and the guard were also dead. To this day, I blame the accident solely upon myself. If I wasn't so much state and wonder, I would have braked in time. And I don't blame Jordan and Ian about their train being uncoupled. It was just an accident. But I am now dead, along with all the passengers and crew that died with me. The crew that loved me so much. Now, the engines don't need to suffer of the railway, all because of one engine who always caused mistakes. Still, I miss the others, especially Henry. He was the most kindest engine to me. I could relate to him, but no, I'm dead, never to see him again. They recovered the coaches and the bodies of the passengers, but they couldn't find the bodies of my crew, nor me. And I just sit there now, watching my remains, and I wonder, the old lion, seeing what has changed. I hope people will remember me, but what I was once used to be, a hard-working engine. But no, I never became that. I became 340, a locomotive that only caused accidents and killed hundreds of lives. Even though only 40-something people died in the train crash that killed me as well. I'm sorry. But it's all over now. All I can do is just wander this line and hope that I'll meet Henry sometime again. Please. Goodbye, my friends. An engine that was supposed to be built, but his main design was his overall disaster. His design of no truck wheels led him to be imbalanced, causing several accidents. That was their mistake.